Thanks, Carrie, and thanks for joining us today. I see we've got a fair few MVPs in the list as well, which is always great to see, especially when it comes to making help, how to, and training videos. So as Carrie said, I've been making videos for some time. You can see them on YouTube. If you go hunting for PC Sport TV on YouTube, you'll find them there. Now, there's no video in this presentation because obviously you've got to be aware of the bandwidth, not just at my end, but at your end. I have no idea what your internet connections are like. So what I'm going to do is split this into 4 parts. Developing, as it says, developing the content running order for your videos, and determining what it is you're going to say, how you're going to say it, how you're going to structure it. Looking at presentational skills and giving you some hints and tips on presentational skills. Looking at the tools of the trade, how you actually go about making these videos, from things that are completely free up to the pro tools for those who may even have access to these things, and then looking at some more advanced presentation methods that you can use to add value to whatever it is you're doing. If you've got any questions to this, I'm going to do a Q&A at the end, so literally ask anything, and if you put your question in the chat box and proceed it with a Q, then Carrie and I will be able to see it, and we'll go through them afterwards. Or what we could do, depending on how many of you there are, we could turn the audio on and turn it into a conversation as well. So as Carrie said, there's not one, but there's 5 copies of the brand new Sony Movie Studio 13 Platinum to give away today. I really like giveaway. Those who know me already know that I never do anything without giving something away. I recently gave a copy of Sony Vegas Pro away in a competition. So we've got 5 copies of this. Thank you very much to Sony Creative Software for providing the prize. Sony software is what I use. That's why I'm enthusiastic about it. I'll talk to you more about what I have used and where I started and whatnot. Those tools, all the free stuff, and then so I can't recommend this highly enough. If you want to win a copy, then fill in the feedback form. There is a link that Carrie, I think, has already provided for this, and will be provided again later on, and you'll be entered into a draw to win a copy, one of 5 copies. So let's begin with part 1. So starting with the video, we always start with planning. Whatever it is you want to do, you have to start with planning. So what is it you want to say? Who is your audience? How do you need to say it, and how are you going to break it down? So what's the message going to be? Is the message going to be, are you going to talk about one particular feature within an Office program, or within an operating system, or within a bespoke piece of software? Or do you want to talk about what's new in that new piece of software? Or do you want to do a review of a piece of hardware? So it's getting to think about how you're actually going to break it down. Write yourself out a list. Using that, I use that remarkably high-tech that high-tech method of pen and paper, just to make a list and scroll things around and figure out exactly what the content's going to be. It's actually much more important to do this than you even might realise, because, as we'll come to later, you can make a whole video and discover that you've missed something really important. So who are your audience as well? So your audience might be complete newbies, they might be non-technical people, they may be people who work in corporate environments, who are used to a certain type of presentation method. They may be techies, they may be MVPs. So you've got to make sure that you're pitching in a way that the audience will actually understand, that you're pitching at their level, so that they're not going to feel intimidated by what you're saying, so that they're going to get it, so that they're going to be happy with it. So So how do you need to say this? How are you going to structure what you're doing, and how are you going to break it down? Well, let's have a look in a little bit more detail what we do with this. Timing really is important when it comes to these videos. I've done my own research in with the videos that I've made on the timings that people want for videos, and overwhelmingly people want to see something that's around about the 3-minute mark. But it can actually be very difficult cramming in what you want to make, what you want to say into 3 minutes. My videos, a lot of them will be longer than 3 minutes. There's no getting around it. Although there are ways that I'll talk about later on to help keep people engaged, and so it's less of a chore for them to actually sit for, 3 minutes isn't actually a very long period of time. 5 minutes isn't a very long period of time. But when people are in the internet age and they're sat in front of their computer and they're used to short snippet videos of cats, attracting people's attention for long periods of time can be quite difficult. So if you want to keep the video short, can you break them down? Can you say you've got your one subject, let's say you're talking about a new version of software X and you want to review it. So do you want to do one video which gives a brief overview of each of the new features, and another video for each of those new features that goes into it in more depth, or do you want to do a longer video, just one video that has all of these bits in? Timing is very, very important, and also very important when it comes to your initial planning of what you're doing, of how many topics you need to cover, how long do you think it's going to actually take to cover each of those topics, and so on. You also want to keep people engaged. Now this is the teacher in me. We were telling a story. You need to start with an introduction. You always have to start with something that tells people what they're there for, what they're going to learn, what they're going to find out that's new, meeting coming up. You have to have you have to draw them in. You have to have a beginning. You have to have the meat in the middle, and you have to there has to be a clear end to it, and you have to wrap up, and you have to tell people, you have to remind people of what it is that they have that you've been showing them in your video and what they've learned. So when you've got, let's pop back a sec. So when you've got all of these, when you've got your notes about what it is you're going to cover and how long you think each part is going to be, try and break it down as much as you can. Then you'll have some idea of what you're going to be telling people. So now you need to work out what you're actually how you're actually going to say it and how you're going to present it. So I want to talk for a little while about good presentational skills. The most important thing with any presentation, be it in a video or anywhere else, is never to make assumptions about who you're presenting to, be it somebody in the room or someone behind a monitor screen somewhere. You don't know who they are, you don't know what they know, you don't know what their level of technical ability is, you don't know what their level of English or Spanish or whatever language you're presenting in is. So don't ever begin by saying, well, you will have already, you may find, let's say you're doing an advanced Windows Server video, then there may be an assumed prior knowledge for that, and you may want to specify in the text that accompanies, if your video's up on YouTube, you may want in the text, so this is for people who already understand how to. And then, because obviously you can't start every subject with an absolute basic thing, so perhaps you can split your lesson into beginner, intermediate, advanced videos and label them as so. Because if you label videos as beginner, intermediate and advanced, people will have a much better idea of what it is they're getting, and if that particular video is at the right level for them. Again, we come back to this 3-minute thing, but this is for a different reason. When you're recording your video, however you're going to do it, and we'll talk about this shortly, be it you're going to do it via screen capturing software, so that people are going to be looking at what's on your screen and you're going to be recording that, or you're doing it via a video camera or a mobile phone. Even independent films are now being made on smartphones because the cameras are so good. So don't underestimate the ability of your smartphone's camera to be able to record video. Keep your segments, the individual segments that you shoot for these videos, less than 3 minutes. The reason being that the longer they go on, the more likely it is that you're going to make a mistake, or you're going to say the wrong thing, or you're going to fluff your lines, and it's going to be, you know, you're going to want to say, oh well, I've got to go back and record the whole thing now. Well, if you keep those individual recordings short, you can edit them together at the end, and it has two effects. It firstly means that it's less likely that you'll need to retake, but also, as I've said here, if later on something changes or is updated with that particular software or that particular item, or if you've got something wrong and you need to replace it, you could just re-record that one segment. You haven't got to remake the entire video. So it's a really good idea to keep your segments short and then edit all of these short segments together afterwards. Now, remember that you're speaking to everybody. You're speaking to everybody in the whole world, quite literally. These people are going to be in every country. So you need to remember that you're not talking to the person who's next to you. You're not talking to someone in the room one-to-one. My dog is here behind me. I'm not talking to him, but then again, he's sound asleep, so he wouldn't be listening anyway. You're addressing an audience of hundreds, possibly even thousands of people. So you've got to maintain all of your enthusiasm. You've got to, as I say, you've got to convince the viewer that you are the expert of your skill. You've got to convince them of your argument. And this is something that I am always aware of when I'm making videos or when I'm giving webcasts such as this, making sure that even though this, you know, I'm in my home office and there's just me and the dog, as I say, I can't see at the moment how many of you are there, but I can't make any assumptions about you, and I want to, even though I know some of you, and I've got to convince you with my enthusiasm on this. You have to be sold on this, exactly the same way as anyone who watches your videos will need to be sold on what you're doing as well. So this all comes down to speaking clearly. You can understand you, your friends can understand you, your family can understand you, probably even your dog can understand you. But what about someone from across the world? I've had people in webcasts before from China, from Russia, from Brazil, from Portugal, from all over the world. So you need to speak clearly, slowly. Not sort of like not too slowly, because if you talk too slowly, then you will sound really boring. And you need to pronounce every word carefully, because you need to make sure that everybody can understand what it is you're saying. You have no idea who's going to be watching your videos. You want the biggest audience possible, and you can get the biggest audience possible by making your voice, which is the primary communication method after all, as clear and as understandable as it can possibly be. Then we've got the 5-minute rule. This comes back from, this is from my teaching experience and from anyone who's ever given a PowerPoint presentation at work or had to sit through a PowerPoint presentation at work, which I think is just about everybody, is that people will begin to drift off from anything after about 5 minutes, and after about 20 minutes you've lost them completely. It's not that your presentation is boring or that your video is boring. It's that this is a perfectly normal human thing. The brain begins to drift, the brain begins to switch off. But you can mitigate it. There are different things you can do. we'll talk about some of these. But one of the things that helps with this is this 3-minute maximum rule on the video segments that you make. So you're editing them together, you're looking at one thing, and then the screen's going to change, and all of a sudden, hey, look, something's changed. You know, it wakes the brain up a little bit. Anything you can do every few minutes to make some kind of an adjustment, some kind of a change, even if it's just something changing on screen, or a bit of text on screen, or you switch from a demo to a PowerPoint slide where people got something to read, and then back to a demo, helps keep people's attention. This is a good example you can see here on the right, where there is a slide here I've used. It's actually an animated video slide, showing people the things they need to type in the command prompt in Windows to move the boot partition. It's from one of my videos. So if you're demonstrating commands, text, things that other people have to read, if you're demonstrating PowerShell, because I know there's people out, there's those of you watching who work with PowerShell. Yes, I hear you, Sean. Then don't just tell them what they need to type. Show them what they need to type. Show them what is the correct syntax for it. Show them if it needs a semicolon after each line. Show them how it's spelt. Don't forget that spellings are different around the world. I'm in the UK. I still have to type everything on my computer in American. Drives me nuts, but that's just the way of the world. So people have different spellings for things. So you can use PowerPoint, you can use other methods to get these text instructions clearly defined for people. But most importantly, when it comes to presentation, is the one rule, is not to make things too fussy, not to give people too much of an eye ache, is to use a one transition type, for example, in PowerPoint, to use a single font, to use one color scheme of no more than about 3 to 5 colors, to use a single approach and have one message. Don't go into a video, unless you're making a magazine style program, then don't cover 3 or 4 completely different things. Have one message and stick to it. Maintain that consistency, because if you maintain that consistency, then people will follow you and people will stick with it. And it also helps keep the time down for the actual video, so that people will guaranteedly watch until the very end. Now, especially in the early days, I'd make a video, I'd publish it, I'd realise that I'd made a mistake in it, I'd have to withdraw it, I'd have to redo the mistake. Now, I will always leave it overnight, I will watch it, the following day I will come back to it with a fresh perspective. You will be amazed how often either a mistake can creep in, especially a typo, or you can actually forget to include something that should have been in there. Everybody does it. I've done it. I've made videos. I've come back to them and I've gone, why the hell didn't I include that? So I come back to these. So you come back to it later with a fresh perspective and a clear mind, and then you can make sure that it includes everything that it needs to. But your audience needs to enjoy watching your videos. They need to get the best from them, so enjoy making them. I love making my videos. It's brilliant. I love all the creative process. I love getting in with all the editing. I could just have carried on making them with Windows Movie Maker, which is what I started with, or I could just have made them with PowerPoint or Camtasia, but I wanted to do more. I really enjoyed it. So I encourage you to take pleasure in creating these videos, because if you take pleasure in them, not only are you going to do more of them and get better at them, but you're going to be more enthusiastic when you're presenting them, and people are going to respond better to that enthusiasm, and you'll build up a name and a reputation for it, and it can all be a good thing. So the tools of the trade. What can you actually use to get yourself started with making your own videos? And don't forget, one of these Sony Movie Studio Platinum. We've got 5 copies of that at the end to give away. So, first of all, get a good microphone. The microphone you see here, the Alesis podcasting microphone, that's the one I started off with. I need a new one actually because mine was bust. It's a few years old now. A good quality microphone is an absolute must. USB microphone will plug directly into a PC. It makes it easy to record your videos. If you have a professional mic and it's got the the professional connector on the end, you can get adapters for those. You can get USB and other adapters for your PC so that you can use them as well. But a good quality microphone is an absolute must. All of mine are done on a very good quality microphone. Pop filters as well. A pop filter will cost you around $10 and will filter out lots of the sounds and other noises that are picked up by microphones when you pronounce. So it says certain words and letters. But it's an extremely cheap way to improve the quality of the sound you have no end. Now let's start looking at some of the software. PowerPoint. You've probably already got a copy of PowerPoint knocking around, or if you haven't got a copy of PowerPoint, there's a free copy of PowerPoint at office.com. You can use PowerPoint and you can present in that, you can make up slides in that. This is done in PowerPoint. I've done this presentation in PowerPoint deliberately because, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a low bandwidth presentation done over link, so I know what my internet connection is like, but I don't know what your internet connection is like, so I could have done a whizzy video one and discovered that half of you weren't able to view it. So PowerPoint is really good, not just for presentations like this, but also for a whole host of scenarios. One of which, as I mentioned earlier, is if you're telling people about commands that they need to write and you want to be able to tell them the appropriate syntax for those commands, then you can do that quite easily and simply in a PowerPoint slide. And it's well worth, in PowerPoint, going in, picking yourself a slide template and spending some time modifying that to suit your own branding, your own needs, and so on. Now, Microsoft Movie Maker, I mentioned before that I started by using this. It's actually really good. To start making help tutorial videos for the community and for other people, it allows you to edit together all of these short snippets that you've recorded of screencasts or video or otherwise. It allows you to add music over those and adjust things like volumes. It has different transition effects between your different videos. It allows you to add titles. It allows you to add text frames between videos so that you can then put in your PowerShell or your other text instructions and your syntax. You can do it all within Movie Maker. You don't need PowerPoint at all. It's great. I made all of my early videos in Windows Live Movie Maker. It didn't do me any harm whatsoever. They still look really good. They're generally identifiable as having been made in Windows Live Movie Maker. That was the dog. Sorry about that. I did say at the beginning it was likely he was going to bark at some point. So apologies for only deafened by the dog there. So that's you can download Microsoft Movie Maker for free, and we'll move on. Hopefully the dog will stop in a minute. Next, Audacity. Now, talking about sound, and here we have the dog. So Audacity is a free audio editing package, and bear with me one sec. Carrie, take over.
Hi all. Did you all get the link to fill out the survey to win a copy of the Sony software? I don't want to keep pushing it if you've got it, but I guess I'm super excited about it. Okay, good.
I'm back.
Great. You must be using the dog filter.
Yes. So Audacity. free audio editing software. It is the free audio editing software. It's long been the best out there. It's very powerful. It's completely open source. There's all sorts of effects and plugins you can get for it. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, it doesn't cost you anything. Now, if you want to do screen capture, there are actually quite a few options. TechSmith Camtasia Studio is the most well known, the most fully featured. You can do interactive courses with it, and all manner of things. It's quite expensive. I know there are some MVPs in here. MVPs actually get it for free, but you can download a 30-day trial of Camtasia Studio as well. It's a very, very good piece of software. I use it myself. If you don't have that kind of budget, and not that many people do, then if you follow this link, pcs.tv/APR2014 webcast, then you will find that will take you straight through to a Wikipedia page, which lists all of the screen capture software that's currently available, many of which are free of charge. You can pick some software to meet your particular needs. Then we've got Sony Movie Studio. Now, this is what's being given away today. It costs from, depending on which one you get, if you go for the entry-level one, it costs just £35. Then you've got the Platinum Edition, which costs a bit more. Costs, I think, about $35 there. It costs about $85, I think, for the Platinum Edition. And there's not actually, I use Sony Vegas Pro, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I moved from Movie Studio to Movie Maker, rather, to Sony Movie Studio. It allowed me to do so much more, and it is surprisingly fully featured, even compared to the Pro end software. There are so many things you can do with this software. I loved it, which is why I've stuck with it. I've not moved over to Adobe Premiere Pro or anything like that. It's very, very powerful indeed. Even this basic end software, not even the Premiere one. Then there's Sony Vegas Pro. If you've got a bigger budget, this is what I'm currently using. This is what I've been using for some time now. Sony Vegas Pro. It's their top end software, $330 or thereabouts. I'm sure you can shop around for a deal. And if you already have access to it, or if you have the budget for it, Adobe Creative Cloud is quite expensive, $600 a year, but you can get, for instance, just Premiere Pro if you wanted to. It will cost you slightly less, and that's the top end. But some people may work in companies where you already have access to Creative Cloud or some of the software. Other resources, videomaker.com, Videomaker magazine. They do some excellent training videos, DVDs. It's an excellent magazine as well. They've got lots of stuff viewable, lots of courses and training videos available on their website. Powtoon. If you like making sort of PowerPoint type stuff, but you want to animate it and make it more like a cartoon and make it more fun and make it more interactive and make it engaging, I thoroughly recommend you check out Powtoon. It's a fantastic service for creating cartoons that you can put voiceovers over. They'll have music for you if you want it, and they're a brilliant way to spice up a video, especially when you're trying to keep people alert and you want to make a change to something and keep people's attention. Videoblocks.com is a subscriber video and audio downloads website. You pay a monthly or an annual subscription to it, and you can download as much as you want. There's a huge amount of content there, really an enormous amount of content, even 4K video as well. And pond5.com has even more, but it's pay as you go. You pay for what you use. There's things there for $5, and there's plenty at that price as well for video and audio. And so you can have backgrounds, you can have transitions, you can have sound effects, and there's After Effects downloads as well. I want to talk about After Effects in a little while, but I wanted to mention it here, that you can get After Effects at these places. So one last part, and then we'll do the Q&A. Advanced presentation methods. What are some of the other things that you can do in your video? So let's recap. We've talked so far about how you can use PowerPoint. You can talk about that. You can use short videos made either in screen capture software, be it Camtasia or be it something that you got for free. You can edit it all together in Windows Live Movie Maker. You can use your smartphone to record some live video, and you can edit that in. And so far, none of this has cost you anything. It's all completely free. So what are some of the other things that you can do? Maybe even for free. Well, this one you can't do for free. You can get a better quality video camera. These two are actually the video cameras that I use, a couple of JVC cameras. You can get full HD, very high quality cameras for not much money these days. They'll come with screw filters on the lens, so you can add your polarizing and your UV filters and other filters. They'll come with lights above the lens. They'll come with hot shoes so that you can add an external microphone if you want to. They'll come with all manner of features, and it's amazing what you can pick up. You'll even find that if you've got a digital SLR, then digital SLRs are very popular with amateur movie makers, especially for shooting video. You can record anything up to 30 minutes of video on a digital SLR, and you have greater flexibility with a digital SLR because you can also choose your lens. You can change the lens that you put on the front. If you're an amateur or even a semi-professional photographer, then you may already have this kit lying around that you can start using straight away. Now, lower thirds. What is a lower third? You'll see here there's a couple of examples. This is a band that appears, or an animation that appears on the bottom of the screen onto which you can overlay text. Now, I mentioned earlier that if you're showing somebody how to do something, especially if you're showing somebody how to type something, one example here, you can see a command prompt window, then you can pop up a lower third. All it is an overlay. You wouldn't be able to do it in Windows Movie Maker. Actually, no, I'm wrong. You can do it in Windows Movie Maker. You can add an overlay and you can put some text on that, either reinforcing what it is people need to type or adding additional information. Let's say I seem to remember in this second video here, the Studio One, then the physical switch for the Wi-Fi connection was something that I'd either actually forgotten or decided just to put in the lower third and not talk about in the video. So lower thirds are incredibly useful, really useful ways of being able to provide more information and reinforce the information that you're giving people. There's more advanced editing techniques you can use. If you go and view my most recent videos from this year, the new PC Sport TV videos, then you'll see effects such as the ones I've demonstrated here, whereby I'm zooming in on a part of a screen in a Camtasia recording to highlight exactly what it is that I want people to be looking at, and other things are faded. These are all things that will come to you practice, and the more you have with your editing software. This is something you won't be able to do in Movie Maker. You can do it in Sony Movie Studio or in Adobe Premiere Pro. You can do it in all of these, and they can really add impact, especially just being able to zoom in. You may already have actually a copy of Zoom It on your PC, and you can use during your Camtasia recording, you can use Zoom It to zoom in there and then on the part of the screen you want people to concentrate on. It might make things a little tricky for you whilst you're recording, so again, keep those recording segments short just in case you're not completely happy with it and you want to go and re-record that bit again. Locations. For me, it's a bit of a pain for people I know because I've always got my video cameras with me. Every trip is an opportunity for me. I'm always thinking, oh, what can I do here? I went all the way to Times Square in New York for a metaphor about laptop batteries. So there's all sorts of locations that you can have. You might live near the top of a mountain where it's quite cloudy and you want to talk about want to talk about the cloud, well, there's a great opportunity for you for an introduction and for a great location to be able to shoot the camera and talk about your subject with some authority as well, because you've made the extra effort to go on location, and people will appreciate you for doing that. You may want a virtual studio here. Here you can see a photograph of my virtual studio, which is just a green cloth virtual studio kit set up in my living room. A green screen kit you can buy on eBay. I think I got mine on eBay for $100. Virtual sets you can buy on websites such as VideoBlocks and Pond5 for $20. Some of them are more expensive depending on what you want. I didn't go for the more expensive ones because I didn't feel I need to. The cheaper ones are absolutely fantastic. There you can see an example of a lower third as well. One of the ones that's a VideoBlocks lower third that is edited in. So it can be good getting a virtual studio. They are a bit more fiddly to use, but one of the disadvantages, I know we're having it in this webcast as well, is that I'm not actually face-to-face with you because we've got bandwidth constraints. You haven't got those bandwidth constraints when you have a video that's on YouTube. So you can talk to people, they can actually see, they can look you in the eye, and they can see how authoritative and serious you are. And you can use picture-in-picture as well. Now here's an example. There's one example of using it where I'm in a virtual studio and I've put a picture in the background, and I'm talking about Ethernet cables and networking in this instance. But you can have a scenario where you have a screen capture using Camtasia or other software, and you can overlay an image in a corner of that to reinforce the message that you're talking about. So picture-in-picture is very useful. Can't do this in Microsoft Movie Maker, but you can do it in Sony Movie Studio and all of the other software. And last but not least, I want to talk about After Effects. Now, I have my own title sequences, as you know. They were all created in Adobe After Effects. If you don't have access to Adobe Creative Cloud, then you can get a 30-day trial from it. You can get pre-made After Effects sequences which you can edit yourself, which are surprisingly easy to do, I have to say, from as little as $20 up to about $80 or maybe more, from websites such as VideoBlocks and Pond5. They can really add a lot of impact to your videos, to your presentations. They can add a lot of professionalism to them, and it's well worth looking at. Get started on videos, and then as you get more confident, you might say, okay, well, let's put in some titles, let's add a brand. So we're almost at the Q&A. Don't forget, 5 copies of Sony Movie Studio Platinum 13 to give away, which you can use to create 4K video for those of you who have 4K TVs, and produce 3D video for those of you with 3D TVs, although YouTube supports 3D and has supported 3D for a while. So 5 copies of that to give away for filling in your evaluation for this, and we'll put a link up. So now Q&A. So ask anything. So I'm going to switch back here into the main chat window so that I can see what you've been asking. And Kerry, what have we got? What have I missed? So what questions have we got?
Sorry, I was having a technical issue there. So we do have a few questions that came in. How do you decide on the topic? My main problem is that I keep thinking they probably already know this.
Well, do they already know it? Don't make any assumptions about people. For every one person who doesn't know about a subject, how many people don't know about it and would like to know about it? If you want to make a video on a particular subject, and there's a market for it, there's a need for it, then go ahead and do it. Some of my videos are very low hitters. Some of them are very high hitters. It doesn't stop me making the ones that are low hitters because I think they're valuable. It just means that not quite so many people need those.
Okay, and how do you decide on the level of the video?
Well, whether it's beginner, intermediate, or advanced, I would say that if it's a tech video, then it's probably simpler. I would think anyway, to decide whether or not it's going to be in beginner, intermediate, and advanced, because a beginner video would be for someone who does not work in tech, who we might consider either an enthusiastic amateur or a complete beginner. An intermediate video would be somebody who does work in tech or would very soon be wanting to work in tech, and an advanced video might be for someone who has a certification qualification already.
All right, we do have a few coming in on the chat as well, but I just have another one. How is your workflow in regard to sound recording and the screen captures? Do you do the sound recording in the same go as you record the videos, or do you do the soundtrack afterwards?
Do you know, I found it's actually easier to record the sound as you're going along, as you're actually recording it, because the odds that if you want to do the screen capture and then record the sound over it, the odds that you will do that screen capture at the right rate so that what you need to say will flow over it and you won't sort of jump ahead on the video, it's much easier to record the audio at the same time as doing the screen capture.
All right, and can you explain what you use your green screen for?
The green screen is just for the virtual studio. Some of these where you can see here in this slide here, where that's not a real studio, that's actually my green screen, and in the video editing software I'm using the chroma key effects. I'm obviously making sure I'm not wearing anything remotely green, and it's remarkably effective at getting rid of the background. And then video is layered, so you'll have one video on top of another video, and when you use the chroma key, you'll just, whatever it is you remove from the top video, the bottom video will then show through. So what you're actually seeing is two different layered videos here.
All right, with an audience you have a direct feedback, but how do you get over the nerves without having that feedback, whether visual or comments?
Well, I always encourage people to write comments on my videos on YouTube, and I make a specific point of replying to as many as I possibly can, hopefully all of them. So I think you just have to find you've got to find your voice. You've got to be comfortable with it. I know it may be quite tricky for some people to say, okay, well, I've been doing, I don't know how this is going to come across. I don't know how I'm going to sound. I don't know, what people are going to say. I wouldn't really get too hung up about it. I would go ahead and do it. There are people who are making these videos who are plain awful, but they do it anyway. Good on. They're not brilliant presenters. But it's a big market. You need to be able to stand out, and if you can build your confidence, if you can be happier about it, then it'll certainly help you stand out in this.
All right, I think I have everyone's questions so far, but please feel free at this point to unmute yourselves and ask away. We have a little bit of time.
I'm muted. I need to unmute audience.
Good point. Here, I can get it. All right. Does anyone have any questions?
If you unmute yourselves. No. Oh, Sean. You'll need to unmute yourself in Link if you want to ask a question. Nope. Sean, Ryan, a couple of you unmuted yourselves. Any questions?
Looks
Okay.
like people are just thanking you. So, Mike, I just
hang
wanted
on.
to
I think
say...
did Ryan say something there?
I was just going to say thanks.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, if folks want to ask you a question, is that okay if they reach out to you for follow-up?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Send me a question.